7 out of 10 Black Panther Party members were young women, and that in addition to providing free breakfast to school children, the Black Panthers established all kinds of free services around the world, from Oakland, California to Auckland, New Zealand. A new book titled Comrade Sisters details the story of the Panther women in their own words. All power to the people.
People were literally dying. Without cash in hand or a health insurance card, Black people were denied ambulance service. My parents did not want me doing this work, but it so happened that one of my mother's friends had to be rushed to the hospital. Later, my mom's friend told her how the Panthers' free ambulance service had saved her life.
The Black Panther Party is the reason why my mother could openly support me as a queer person, coming out at age 12. The party was the only Black organization in the country that had a commitment to working with queer people. Before we began sickle cell testing and education, the doctors said it was a Black disease, and therefore there was no funding for research. They really didn't care. Marie Roper, a sister in the party, lived with sickle cell and died from sickle cell, so we knew the pain of this disease firsthand. I love you, my sisters.
Our Panther work was done out of love for all of our Pacific cultures. We revolutionized the minds of thousands of students all over the country. We're reaching the minds of the teachers too. My heart and love goes out to you, our Tuakana, our older siblings, the Black Panthers, for starting us on our journey.
Aisha would want girls and women of all ages to know that historically, women have always been an instrumental part of our fight for justice. My mother would often quote a Ghanaian proverb, "If you educate a man, you educate an individual, but if you educate a woman, you educate a family, a nation."
It symbolized two leaders who understood the oppression of our people, and even Malcolm said to Fidel,
chapter. And we have Nana Njinga Nyameki, forgive me, veteran Black Panther of the Black Panther Party Baltimore chapter. No? Okay, the last one couldn't be here with us today.
That was like almost an impossibility because they were trying to kill us all.
yeah, there was a lot of uneven development.
It's one of them. Mumia is another one. Iman Amin is another one. We need to get those brothers home. We need to get them to be with their families. They're old now. They're sick. We need to rally to get them home. And there's another thing that you can do. Don't say, who am I? I'm no one. Yes, you are. Write to those brothers. Those brothers will bring you back. If you talk to some of the political prisoners who have been set free after 35, 45, 50 plus years, they will tell you that's what kept them going. That's what gave them strength. strength, the letters and the cards from the community. So that's something that you can do. Give money at the fundraisers. That's something you can do. You know, it helps with their concept. So there are things that we can still do. Because what's the call? Freedom all. Thank you.
I don't think that I would have anything to add, except that in all of the organizations that we are members of, individually, we have to bring this issue to those organizations. Because sometimes people really don't know what the definition is of a political prisoner in the United States of America. You know, we say political prisoner. What are you talking about, right? So it's creating the narrative that the community, that the people can understand. You know, I think that's the educational component is really important. And we don't have that much time. These people are facing, you know, it's a life-death situation, you know. I think also, whenever we can, we should hear the voices of the children of political prisoners, and especially with Kamala right now. It's important. I know that Kikise is overwhelmed, but just to hear her voice, I'm trying to get her little film into something that we're going to do on Juneteenth, where we're actually talking about Juneteenth and prison labor and the continuation of the 13th Amendment. But we need to bring him into this, you know. So, you know, you find everything that you do, and you try to find ways to integrate the issue, because none of these issues are separate. And the Palestinian question, Palestinian political prisoners, let's talk about let's bring that in, and that helps to strengthen, it helps to broaden our movement. We also need to talk to our Puerto Rican brothers and sisters who were able to free all of their political prisoners. What did you do? What did you do, Esperanza Martel? How were you able to do that? What lessons do you have that you can share with us? Because that was a long struggle also. But you must have learned a lot, you know, and that we can learn from that. Because listen, let me tell you this. There's going to be more political prisoners. There will be more. We could be political prisoners right here, you know, and so we have to, that's all a part of this massive thing that's going on. We have to prepare. We have to prepare. And so, you know, we're up against, again, what's the F word? They will do, I mean, listen, they are capable of doing everything beyond Project 2025. If you haven't read it, right, you should. So that's, you know, that's what I would suggest. And before we leave, I just want to share something from Mundia. This is something from that I learned from him, that we learned from him. And then I will be quiet. Okay, so Mumir sent me many years ago, he sent me his manuscript, A Life in the Party. Has everybody read that book? But then he has a whole section on Panther women, and it's instructive. He says that just as, and he's talking about this author Pearson, who he's critical of. He says, just as his Pearson's fundamental analysis suffered from a parsimoniousness of perspective, his presentation of the life and experience of female Panthers is severely flawed. Quote, while it is undeniable that the Black Panther Party was primarily a male organization, it was forced by necessity to promote bright, capable women in positions of power, like section leader Afeni Shakur, who, although claiming she was neither brilliant nor had any leadership ability, simply had to do the job. Okay? When two leading Panthers were busted and on old bench warrants from all pre-BPP membership offenses, they appointed her to this key party organizing task despite her objections. And every time I tell them that I shouldn't be in any position like that, they would just look at me and tell me there's nobody else to do it. That's how they justify it. There's nobody else, and learning from Mumia, there's nobody else to do it except us. Us meaning you. And he goes on, but I just wanted to share because Mumia has been one of the most fiercely supporters of women of the Black Panther Party. He's memorialized it in almost all of his books that he's written. And I would suggest that you, if you haven't, you should read his works, and he really talks about women in the Black Panther Party and how central they were. And I think that's some of the best history that we can also pass on.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for your time and your energy and just giving us what we needed in this moment. We have some time for Q&A, and
I don't think so.
We don't? Okay.
Lisa, where we at? No.
No?
No, we can do. He said, well, I'm from the chef. We're veterans of the Black Panther Party as well. And what we can do is we're supposed to have the last hour that we added on for people to eat, take some photos. So what we could do is, unless it's all right with you, maybe take part of that time for some Q&A. At that last half an hour, we got to be out of here at 8. Okay? So,
Yeah.
Okay, she said yes. She's in charge, not me.
Could you do questions? Quick answers? Great. Yes?
2 questions. Okay.
Oh, one other thing, when we do break, it'll be your last chance to get a raffle. Because we're going to do the raffles right after the Q&A. And anybody who did not donate, come see me. I know who you are.
Hey, Sam, you should get a raffle.
So, 2 quick questions. We just want to make sure it's a question and not a comment. Just questions, please. We have a question in the front. Sister Esperanza.
It's not a question, but I need to really hold up Sophia Bukari, a comrade and friend who suffers from internalized depression. And I'm saying this because the trauma that being in the left movement and dealing with the trauma to state, and then our own trauma that we cause to each other. And I was in the founding committee of Jericho. I was on the outfit with Yuri and Sophia. And the thing is, look, one of the major problems of the Black left, what is the sectarianism, is not being open and interested, to others. Other. As a Puerto Rican, I'm an other. With 40 years of liberating political prisoners, right? Yuri was there. Yuri recruited me to be on that committee with some other powerful people. But the one who really fought for what, when we're talking about the committee, is to fight repression of fascism was out here in a very, very big way. And, but it was a fight, and it was a lot of sexism, because the outreach committee was basically women, very powerful women. So that's why that big demonstration in Washington happened, and this committee was formed. Now, that's, yes, the thing is that within all the work, right, and she was a social worker, she was doing work re-entry work, besides all the political work that she was doing, and she suffered heavily from the beatings in the prison, from the emotional abuse from brothers, right? And that's the percentage, that's what it is. So for our young people, right, what is the recommendation of how to move forward, given that there's still sexism and still haters, and our women are still being sexually abused, and those that stand up in their behalf get them charged with being agents of the state because we call the brothers out. Okay? So,
One more.
Just gratitude to everyone involved as partners. Did you reverb that? Okay, respect, gratitude. And so as always, in a space like this, hearing, just all the wisdom that y'all are recounting, I'm taking close note. And so movement-wise, we continue to deal with these same struggles that y'all are outlining. And so to build off of the question that was just raised, do y'all have any specific structures, proposals, wisdom, archives, etc., that you could point us for as regards resisting against, dealing with, and structurally addressing these kind of internecine violence within the movement, particularly of a gendered nature. And as we continue to uplift Sister Bakari, who's so critical in this way, and has pointed towards some of the ways that y'all have dealt with these kinds of conflicts, in terms of the tribunal structures, etc. What could y'all point for structurally, archivally, for us to build against that kind of violence within the community?
Thank you.
Okay, so, you both referring this to me. Young brother there, I'm sure you're in an organization, correct? And how is your organization taking up these issues?
Well, we're struggling through them as we speak. We're struggling through them as we speak, and that's why it's a very concrete, genuine question. Looking for guidance on it.
Okay. Are there women in your organization?
Without a doubt, absolutely.
Okay. And you have not come together with any kind of structure that's addressing the question of sexism, misogyny, or any of that? That's not a part of your organizational frame?
No, well, without a doubt it is. But just in all sincerity and humility, it's a struggle to really engage that, especially on the broad collective level that we are building. With the People's Senate, for example. So we are struggling through these questions, on a minute level and on an intercommunal, organizational level. And that's perhaps the toughest part of the struggle, because these questions are so sensitive.
Okay. You need to, well, I don't want to tell you how to run your organization, but it sounds like to me that you're doing the right thing. And you're asking, the information that we're giving you here today, it's coming straight, the issues that we had in the Black Panther Party. You want to avoid that, right? So structurally, there should be some time set aside for every meeting where there's a women's commission, for example, where the men will meet. I mean, so there's all these different kinds of things that you can do to address first you have to identify what is the problem. What is the problem? What are the issues? And then you say collectively, intercommunally, it sounds like to me you already have the structure. It sounds like to me you already have the framework. It's just that the content, it sounds like the content of how you want to approach it is something that you all have to hammer out. And I've given you a couple of things. You can have a women's commission, right? You could have a study group on this question that brings up these particular issues. You could go into the community. You could find out in the community what is going on in the community, with leadership in the community, with women in the community. What is the community saying? Because it's not just this issue is not just something that's in political organizations. It's happening in our entire community. And that's the problem. We bring that into the organization. We bring it into the organization. So that's what we did. That's what I'm doing now. I mean, what you're saying is not novel, brother, right? But it sounds like you're struggling with it, but it sounds like to me, you are on the right path. Did somebody put him up to do? Is there a scoop that's at the top? I want to see. That's some of your charts, right? Okay, well, it's affirming what Esperanza has been trying to tell you all along. But thank you for your question. I heard it sincerely. Seriously. What was that first one? And it has to be addressed, you know? It has to be addressed. And you know what's happening with our LGBTQ sisters? You know? The hatred, even in our own movement. You know? We have to take this up because that was one of the downfalls. That was one of the downfalls of all these organizations historically. You know, and if they're multiracial organizations, it's double duty. Because you got to deal with the racism that comes with privilege into our organizations, and you have to address it head on, you know? Because you two are just fine.
What I said in the beginning is you have to come up, like Rosemary's saying, you have to address the issues. You cannot be liberal when it comes to talking about different things. You have to be, it may not be comfortable, but you have to address the issues. That's what I said about backbiting and all that. That's what I was talking about. You have to come up front, face to face, and address the issue.
I think a lot of the issues with the females is that they have a low esteem. So they're looking for love in all the wrong places, just to quote that song. But you know, I think the sisters should get together. They should have find somebody that can teach them self-defense so that they can fight. Because the police ain't gonna help you. You know, we've read stories about women being gunned down in the church as they were getting married. You know, how much violence, you know, my mind can't even conceive that. But if you start to learn how to take care of yourself and protect yourself, then you can learn how to fight back. But the first thing you need to do is learn how to love yourself.
And then that's really, that's so critical. That is so fundamental. Because one of my mentees recently asked me if I could go back to 25 or something like that, what would I do? I would be more selective about the men that I met in my life. You know? Seriously. Because some of the men that I met in my life, they were totally losers, you know? And even some of the political men, totally losers. I'm telling you, really. But the point is, you think that you have to love yourself as a woman, and you have to know who you are, right? And what is your value. And then you might decide that you don't even need them. Listen. You have to be selective, and you have to determine. That's what self-determination is. We talk about self-determination as if it does not have something to do with us, right? It starts with us. You know, if Sam left me tomorrow, it would be fine. You know? because my life does not evolve totally around a man. You know? First, it's me. And that does not mean you being individualistic. It means self-preservation, right? So you have to first know who you are and what do you want in your life. And sometimes this thing around sexism has a lot to do with who we as women feel that we have this need, that we've got to have a brother, we've got to have one, you know? And you may need some time to figure out, young sisters, where you're going and what you want to do. I mean, and that may not be a priority, but that's what the system has done. It's made us think that we need to fall into these little categories, and that's for the political women still, as well as our sisters that we work with and do work with in the community. It's love of yourself first, and then step 2, 3, and 4. No, Sam, I'm not going to leave you, okay?
We have one last question in the front.
I wonder, what is your reaction? There's 2 questions. To the Battle of Algiers and the scene where these religious flirt with the colonists. That's the first question. Do you think it speaks to hope for our struggle? And secondly, I wonder, what is your reaction to Harriet Tubman in terms of the struggle that you're talking about? And lastly, I want to thank you for your reaction when the California came to New York. I want to thank you because you took your Comrade Sophia. Thank you. You remember her arresting us. Thanks. But number 1, Battle of Algiers, when they armed up for the warrior sister, Harriet Tubman. How did we get her? Tell us your
story. Well, I'm going to start with Harriet first. Because there's a whole lot of folk that we say, no, you stay right there. You know, you stay right there. Because if you try, you can mess up the whole thing. And we've got to be clear about that. Who are our enemies and who needs a little more education and who's not ready. You know, we want to bring as many along as possible, but we also may have to leave a whole lot of people behind. I'm telling you, that's how I feel about that. Regarding the Battle of Algiers, the scene where the women are collaborating with the oppressor, the picture. Oh yeah.
Well, they put those AR-15 things.
Yeah.
Although they were not raised.
Right. There may be situations that we will, you know, everybody will have a role in a responsibility. And that's why the necessity of organization is so important, because maybe what is your skills? What's your skill set, and what do you need to learn to come up to par to be able to be in this battle? Number one, we talked about the necessity of loving ourselves. That's key, right? And then there's a sacrifice. What are we willing to sacrifice? But we want to have some fun also. We want to use the culture to engage. We want that. We want that for everybody, but we also need that for ourselves to sustain ourselves as well. So thank you, Sister Betty. That's about all I could contribute to those two issues that you raised.
And I'd just like to remind people to invest in their own cemetery. That was a slave breeding cemetery where there was pedophilia that you would imagine. But the four-year-old girls organized to protect each other if they could. And that very around 60% of the children who bled out because they were supposed to be slaves and they were too young to carry them. And they knew they were going to die, but they found ways of resistance. So I think all men need to hear that story. That's the matter with multiple ways to serve each other. Please reach out to them.
Well, thank you again. Thank you for a great night, a great evening. Thank you so much. Thank you to the organizers, thank you to the People's Church, thank you to our brother doing the video, all the performers, the DJs. We thank you. We thank you. We thank you.
Just really quickly, I want to remind everyone that this is the last chance to grab your raffle ticket. If you haven't donated, do that as well. That's going to be right over here. Also, thank you to the Sisters of Warrior Security. Anyone